All right. Let's wait for Steve. So you guys should have everything in there. John, we're gonna need your signature. We can get those later on too.
Yep.
With Pete and Vicky in the square in the box. We'll get that later on.
Sounds good.
Oh, Chris, you have the tree up already. Nice.
Thank you.
Shannon, come on up. How's it going today?
Super, how are you?
Good, good.
Oh. Not ready for what?
You know, how's it going today? Good. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Thanks for coming. Make sure you sign in, the address and everything like that. You should be okay, guys. Are you ready, Vicki?
Sure.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Education for the School District of North Fond du Lac to order. And I'd like to start with a roll call vote, please.
Chisholm.
Here.
Hawk.
Here.
Goldowski here. Yeager.
Here.
Geckerman.
Here.
All right, the board is in 100% attendance, and therefore we have quorum. Report and public notice, please.
Yes, President Chisholm, public notices were mailed to the Fond du Lac Reporter, radio station KFI Zeno 107.1 The Bull, and WFDL Radio, as well as posted at the district office of BP on Prospect and the Village Municipal Building on November 19th, 2021.
Thank you. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda, it states to select the treasurer. That's carryover from last month. If you remember, we had a volunteer and therefore an appointment. So Mr. Geckerman has been appointed as the treasurer, so that matter has already been addressed. Which brings us to item G, the treasurer's report. So if you would please read the treasurer's
Approval of
report.
minutes first.
I'm sorry, what?
Approval of minutes first.
It says that. Sorry about that. Item E is approval of minutes. There were two sets of minutes that were distributed in your members' packet, one for the regular meeting on the 25th of October and one for the special meeting on November 3rd. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes as were distributed? All right, seeing none, then those will stand approved as presented. Now, please, Mr. Geckerman, if you read the treasurer's report in public record.
Absolutely. So our cash balance on hand as of October 25th, 2021 was $154,158.67. We had receipts ranging from 10/26 to 11/22 of $56,931.18, and transfers from investment accounts of $1,600,000 for our total receipts of $1,811,089.85. Our expenditures from the same dates of 10/26 to 11/22 were $1,559,943.99, which carries down to the total expenditure line of $1,559,943.99. Our cash balance on hand as of November 22nd, 2021 is $251,145.86. Transactions, bills are recommended for payment as shown on the attached list dated of November 22nd, 2021 in the amount of $1,367,772.51.
All right, thank you. Financial information was sent today. Sorry about the oversight there. I didn't notice it until today. However, if any of you have had any opportunity, are there any questions about the expenditures to be approved and paid? All right, seeing none, what's the board's pleasure on the $1,367,772.51?
I'll make a motion to pay the list of bills.
I'll second that motion.
All right, motion and second. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Hawk,
Yes.
Geckerman,
Yes.
Chisholm,
Yes?
Goldowski, yes, Jaeger.
Yes. All right, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next is the clerk's report, please.
I have a few things here, which I'm gonna be honest, I didn't have a chance to go through them, so. Thank you from the Randy Hop family. And,
That's a letter that Julia sent to me, but to thanking everybody for the band
the
uniform.
band uniforms, with a picture of the band on them. And I believe that, oh, sorry, donations, yes. Drexel, $5,000 for supplies for the scores booth and concession stand at the softball baseball complex. Anonymous, $500 to bands for environmental science learning, that's awesome. And Service League of Fond du Lac, $1,500 to Treffort Way for field trips and speakers. And that is all I have.
Very nice. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is listed as student council report. So I don't know if Samantha, yes, you are online.
All right, we'll turn it over to Samantha, and I think you said Bianca was gonna be here?
Yep, Bianca is on right here with me, so I'm actually going to turn it over to Bianca to share the student council report. Thanks, Bianca.
Okay, so for student council, the Horseman Student Council has been planning our annual turf wars, which was formerly known as the Penny Wars. This event will take place from November 29th to December 3rd. The homerooms will be competing with each other to raise money for Christmas gifts to families in need within the district. We will be donating gift certificates to Horseman Giving Tree and buying gifts to donate to the Friendship Drive. The wrapping of the gifts will take place December 16th. And also the council has decided to once again become Secret Santas for the staff members. It is a fun way to show our appreciation for all of our teachers and what they do. Small gifts and notes will be delivered 5 days before Christmas break, and then the students will reveal who they are after the day before break. And then do you want me to do like NHS and Key Club and all that too? All right. So for NHS, 20 National Honor Society members took part in the Feed My Starving Children food pack on October 8th. This was a wonderful experience, and the common feeling from students is that they would love to do it again. We were able to pack 18,567 meals in 84 boxes, which will feed 50 children for a year. NHS members provided a meal for the teachers at the parent-teacher conference on October 20th. A potato bar was provided for the teachers, and the NHS members brought in all the fillings. NHS members have also been completing their first read-alongs. Groups of NHS members go to FLC to kindergarten classes where they share 2 Thanksgiving stories with the class and then complete a craft activity. It is a rewarding experience for the children and members of the NHS Society. Members will complete a December read-along with students as well. And then for Key Club members provided a Subway sandwich dinner for the October 18th parent-teacher conferences this year. We brought in all the trimmings to make this complete meal for the teachers. Key Club members have many opportunities to meet their volunteer hour requirements this year. And then in addition to the outside opportunities, we also have in-school ones, and they are the donut sale, which was hosted October 28th. We also have 50-50 raffle and wing fling at basketball games all throughout the season. We have FLC childcare at parent-teacher conferences from November 30th and December 2nd. And we also have holiday card making for nursing home distribution December 1st and the 7th. And then we have Christmas angel tree packing for the Salvation Army, December 10th and the 11th, and the distribution on the 15th. And then Key Club has donated $30, which were split up into three $10 gift cards from Pick and Save to FLC's Adopt a Family. And they've also donated 3 bulk packs of microwave popcorn for Horace's Man's Giving Tree. And that is all I have.
Thank you, Bianca.
Thank you. Any board members have any questions or comments for our student council report?
No, nice job.
Thank you. It's nice to have a little input from the student council. It's been quite a while since we've had someone here at the meeting, so thank you very much. All right, next on the agenda, item J, citizens input. This is an opportunity for members of the public who live within the school district of North Fond du Lac to make comment to the board. I would ask if you're going to speak, please start by introducing yourself and listing what your address is. So, is there any members of the public who wish to address the board under citizens comment or citizens input?
Sure, I will. Tara McCarthy, N7693 Viking Drive. You guys know my stance on masking. I'm here to basically ask you guys again to leave it as a choice. Nobody's saying take it off, don't ever wear it again. No, if that's what makes you feel comfortable, go ahead. But just sitting here and the board meeting's only been going, 15 minutes? I've watched the board members touch their masks over 15 times. Each time you touch the mask, it's contaminated and it's gross. With that being said, I know you guys like facts. Went to the doctor last week, no COVID, nothing like that. A lady came in, the nurse, in what looked like a spacesuit. I've never seen one in person because I don't really try to go to the doctor if I don't have to right now. So I was intrigued and I asked her, why are you wearing that? What's the reasoning behind it? Why don't you just have a mask and a gown and gloves like everybody else? She told me that when they come in, they put their N95 masks on. They spray chemical on them. They move around and they talk, just like they would with anybody that had came in with them that day. They have a time frame, and if that time frame, they smell that chemical, their mask is deemed defective and they can't wear it. All your guys' masks are deemed defective. They're not proper. So, with that being said, she was not allowed to wear it because it would do more harm than good. So she had to go around in this bubble all day. That's all she had to do her job. If you want our kids to wear masks, have them walk around in a bubble, because that's the only way they're going to be healthy. Since my children have been back with mask optional, my one son's asthma has gone back down. Same with my daughter. Neither one of them are using their inhalers right now, which is what we want. They've been in school. There have been little issues, but nothing like there was before. 3 of my children had no issues. They've actually excelled and done really, really well. So I'm just asking that you leave it optional. Let us parents decide. Your guys' numbers just came out with how everybody is doing in the district. We're down from 78 to 64. Nobody's perfect, I understand that. But when 70% of one reading or math, those students fail, that's where our attention needs to be. It needs to be on the academics of our children and not their health. That's not your job. Your job is academics. And I'm asking that that is what you focus on, their academics. My children and everybody's children deserve the education that they're supposed to be getting. And right now, they're not getting it.
All right, thank you, Tara. Anyone else wish to address the board?
Hello. Rob Murphy, I'm M9609 Van Dyne Road in Van Dyne. Recent events have been very frustrating for parents, and I'm sure for you as well. More than once, you have been asked to consider the evidence that proves the truthlessness of the COVID narrative and the danger and damage that have resulted from the actions that have been taken in response to it. Some of you don't appear to have listened. If you truly believe that the evidence can be disregarded because it is incompatible with the instructions you received, then so be it. It's irrelevant anyway. Whether or not you believe in COVID isn't the issue. The real issue is much bigger. I understand that you are and have been for a long time under a lot of pressure to do what you're told by a force that doesn't really care what we the parents want for our children. And I know it's very hard to now start resisting this force. But now you're being faced with another force, one that is contradictory to the status quo, that is the growing awareness among parents of what's going on in North Fond du Lac School, and your inability to honor the wishes of parents without displeasing the first force. Japanese Admiral Yamamoto, who planned the attack on Pearl Harbor during World War II, was reported to have written this in his diary. I fear all we have done is to awaken a sleeping giant and fill him with a terrible resolve. I'm sad to have to acknowledge that for the most part, this giant still sleeps. But are you sure you know how far he can be pushed before he wakes? In all of this, it really comes down to two questions that I would like you to consider. One, were you elected to represent the wishes of the parents of the children in this district regarding how and what our children are to be taught in school, or to exercise rule over those parents regarding these things? Once you become a member of the school board, do you believe you're supposed to make decisions and vote based on your own individual interpretation of issues? Or do you believe you need to continue input from the families that are affected by your decisions? And two, do you believe the children in this district belong to the government or their parents? If a man and a woman marry and have a child, does that child belong to them or to the state? If you honestly consider these two questions, would you have the courage to make the answers public in this community, or would you be ashamed? Lastly, I understand that some things you deal with are more complex than we realize. I get that. But I also know that much of the difficulty in which you find yourselves is the consequence of decisions that have been made in the past that may have seemed right at the time, but now maybe not so much. But even in the face of the complexities that influence your decisions, the answers to my two questions are very simple. This isn't over. There will be more issues on which you will have to take a stand. Will you choose to stand with the families of the North Fond du Lac School District or against us? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, then I will close the citizens input portion of the meeting at 7:18 PM. Next is item K, superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Chisholm. So first off, before we go any farther, I just want to take a minute and recognize what one of our past Orioles, Jim Siebert, Dr. Siebert in Waukesha are dealing with, and send our love and prayers and good vibes down to Waukesha as they deal with some difficult times. So just want to let them know that we're there for them, and whenever there's a tragedy that happens, it ripples into many different areas, and including one of our students was actually at that parade yesterday at middle school. So, but just letting Waukesha School District and the community know that we're there with them and sending them our prayers and thoughts. So, thank you. All right, so next on the up note, what I want to do is first off, I'm going to turn it over to Carl Anderson, our new AD. But before we do that, Carl, we have one all-conference athlete that came to be recognized. I know him quite well. So at this time, if we could please have Ethan Sadoff stand up. Ethan was all-conference football, our only all-conference player this year. That was a difficult year for football, but Ethan, what do you think? What did you learn about football this year, and what did you have fun doing?
I had fun tackling people and running after them. But I really liked how we worked together and how we might not be the best team, but deep down that we played our hardest.
Yep, and what joked with Ethan, I think he set the conference record for the most tackles 30 yards or more downfield on the opposite side. So he had some of those too. So, but no, thank you, Ethan, for working really hard. And what are you excited about for winter?
Wrestling.
Yeah. Rumor has it he gets up at about 5 o'clock every morning and goes in and runs on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday and wrestles. So congratulations, Ethan. Thank you for representing. All right, Mr. Anderson, turn it over to you for, I always think that maybe you're Neil, Mr. Anderson. Go ahead and take it over as we talk about athletics and where we're going in the fall and then into the spring or winter, excuse me.
So, and if you refer to the board report, we had a number of all-conference athletes in cross-country, soccer, and volleyball as well. Although they're not at the meeting tonight, we just like to point that out. Especially a couple of first-team soccer and cross-country athletes We're really proud of all of our athletes and all of our sports, and we had great sportsmanship and participation among all of our athletes in the fall, and we're looking forward to that continuing into the winter. As we look forward to the winter, some of the exciting things, our girls basketball team already played their first 2 games. Boys basketball has a scrimmage, or they had a scrimmage right now. And they have their first game next Tuesday. I believe wrestling has their first meet on the 6th, but I know the wrestlers have been working hard before and after school every day, and I think they're excited to have their first meet. We also, in exciting news, we'll have new scoreboards. Hopefully the second week after Thanksgiving. They are theoretically shipped and being delivered and scheduled to be installed. But with everything that's been going on in the world with shipping things, I won't believe that until they're up on our walls. But it'll be really nice to have those new scoreboards up. And then they'll be prepped for potential future rule changes, particularly in basketball, as they continue to argue about whether or not they want to have a shot clock in high school. But we'll be ready to go one way or the other. And if we were to host any events over the summer or anything like that, we could host leagues that play with the shot clock, which is exciting. And our new boys basketball coach seems really excited and ready to go. The athletes that I've talked to like his enthusiasm, along with the rest of his coaching staff. Our girls basketball coach, obviously everybody knows him and everybody's still excited to have him around. And it's nice for me as the new guy because he can remind me how things are supposed to work because he's been here for a year or two. But I would just also like to thank the entire community for supporting me, for being excited. I got to meet with a number of youth sports parents last week and talk about how to have better connections between the high school and the middle school and our youth sports, and I'm really excited to explore that further. And I've just felt really welcomed by everybody in all corners of our athletic programs, from school-based athletics to community-based athletics, and I'm excited to continue developing those relationships and building our programs at every level.
All right, well, thank you, Carl. You guys have any questions? Carl also provided me with the flyweight updates, so you can see all those in there. We also have, I think, a couple athletes that are playing hockey with Fondy. Our girls and our boys both are co-oping with Fondy for hockey, so should be an exciting fall or winter season ahead. Do you guys have any questions for Carl? All right, and I also want to just a big shout out, Carl. Thank you for meeting with youth basketball and for being at the event. You're a great addition to Oriole Nation.
And I did forget one thing that I'd like to make sure that we mention in our board meeting. Dale Fridley, who's been the flyweight commissioner for 30 years, is retiring at the end of December. We are interviewing his replacements tomorrow. I'm on that interview committee, but I just want to recognize his service to the flyweight conference because he's been a big part of high school sports in the area for the last 30 years. And anybody who has been involved at any level owes him a debt of gratitude for going above and beyond what is asked of a conference commissioner.
Yep, he's still probably gonna drive bus, I'm guessing. Probably see him out there. So. All right, well, thank you, Carl. Really appreciate it. And Ethan, at this time, if you'd like to stay and see an aspect of your father's work for a little later, longer on, you're more than welcome to. Otherwise, you're more than welcome to go home.
Good to see you, Ethan.
All right, have a good one. Tell Lily I'll call her later. Thanks, man. Thanks for coming. I'm proud of you. All right. It's pretty exciting. It's about as animated as you'll get out of here. All right. So next, what I want to do is we're just going to go to school department updates. All of the directors and principals included their updates within your packet. So what I'm just going to go around. You can read those. Adams was his report card. He'll go over those briefly. He'll be after. So what we'll do is we'll just start first at the Trefford Way. So Tiffany, are you there?
Hi, yes, I am. Just to highlight a couple of things in our report, our board had approved an additional in-service day for November 8th, and we just really appreciated having that extra time. We don't have much as far as prep time at Trefford Way. We're with our students all day, which we appreciate and enjoy, but we were able to use that day to revamp our whole schedule, and we are excited to implement all of the changes with that schedule starting Monday after Thanksgiving. Another thing there, we are participating in a therapeutic listening study currently that's being run by a few people at SSM and Dahl & Associates. And we had 2 occupational therapists from Madison come last week, and they did some of the pre-assessment testing that they do on the students that were interested in participating, their families that signed them up. And then we will start this therapeutic listening study where the students listen to different kinds of music. And then we do a post-assessment to see if listening to this music throughout the day increases or changes any of the behaviors or things that they were watching for. So we're excited for that. And then, as was stated before, Miss Tara Hughes, our K-1 teacher, wrote a grant to the Service League of Fond du Lac and was awarded $1,500 for our students to be able to use on field trips and to bring in guest speakers to our school this year. So we're also very excited for that. And then just one more shout out, I guess, for our upcoming vendor fair that will be on Saturday, December 4th from 8 to 3 at Treffert Way, and all of our proceeds will go towards our fundraising for a playground.
Thanks,
Any
Tiffany.
questions?
Anybody any questions for Tiffany? I know their board met before this. They're growing and developing and have a lot of things going on. Overall, how is the new facility working for you, Tiffany?
We love it. We love the space. You're all welcome to come check it out anytime. Just let us know.
All right, thank you very much. All right,
Thank you.
so moving on, we'll now go to Carrie, Joe, and Lauren.
Hello, I have a lot of our report this month based on our school-wide data, which I will let Adam explain the school report cards to you in greater detail. That's a big part of it. But then I also included our school-wide learning objective, which is our school improvement plan that we write each year. And then the teacher SLOs or school and student learning objectives tie in and feed into that. So that information has been highlighted for you as well. We are already, even since I submitted the board report last week, Wednesday, seeing that data continue to rise. So it's encouraging to see how well our students are doing when we're following a specific plan. So I'm excited for those results. And then also our adoptive family is underway. So last year we had about 100 students that we were able to serve within our local community. So those would be students and any of their siblings that are 18 and under in the North Fond du Lac school system. And we are expecting to be able to serve at least that many students again this year. So I want to thank Terry Grady and Erica Harbath, and then Judy McHugh is also helping with things behind the scenes, along with all of our elves and donors within the community and on our staff. It is something that we really enjoy being able to do, which it's just great to be able to have food donations and gifts going to the families that are in need. So that is underway right now. We've also updated our website once again with our newest Kindness Kings and Queens. So that information is out there, and it's also on social media each Monday. So take a look at those and find out what the kiddos are doing who are being recognized. And then one other thing that I do not have in the board report that I wanted to mention, and Lauren can speak to this a little bit more, it is our universal screener that we are implementing for our students in grades 3 through 5. So you do have the materials. I'd ask Erin to share the packet with you. So you have that overview, which tells you the purpose, the why behind the screener. You have the family communication that went home in English and Spanish. And then you also have a copy of the screener itself. So Lauren, if you want to talk a little bit more about how the team got to this point and what we're going to be doing with that, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah, we've probably spent the last couple months just really researching and trying to figure out what screener was going to be the best fit. We really wanted to focus on kids who were internalizing more, so things like anxiety, things that maybe aren't caught with like office discipline referrals or like our primary response calls. So we landed on the Spence anxiety scale, which we think is going to be a really good fit as far as what we're looking for. Like Carrie Jo said, we're going to plan on rolling out with our 3rd grade students the week we get back from break. Because it's new to our team, we're going to start with that grade level and kind of take it pretty slow and see, just how things go just with the administration portion of everything. And then hopefully roll out to 4th and 5th grade, as December rolls along and then January. And then from there, our goal is to take our SEL team members and focus on mentorship and friendship groups and connection groups and really try to support some of those students who, again, are internalizing more of those behaviors.
And I just sent that out to you guys, so you had that. I'm showing it up here for that poll.
Thank you.
Yep.
And it is passive permission, so if students, like, we're asking families that if they're not interested to let us know, otherwise that's pretty typical with what we do with our other school-wide programs as well. And as Lauren mentioned, Erica Harvath, our school counselor, and our SEL team will form groups around students who identify as having need based on this screener. So this goes along with our Allies in Mental Health Education, our AME team.
And just another note, our Gallup student poll that we give annually, that information data is back, and that's another piece too that looks at engagement and hope and how kids feel included. More information will be out utilizing that tool, and that's 5th through 12th grade. You guys have any questions for Carrie Jo?
So what do we do with that information that we get? Are we just working with those students? Is there a program implemented? What do we do with that information?
Want me to answer? Okay, so I think a variety of different things. So again, depending on how certain students score on the screener, our first step would be to reach out to the family and just let them know kind of what we've seen. And then depending on the kiddo and what we think the need would be based off of how they score on the screener, like I said, we would look at doing a connection type group. We have some, I guess I would say curriculums. I don't know that they're research based, but just things like worry warriors, different things that we've done with kids in the past, size of the problem. I mean, some of those things are research based, but other things are just things that our SEL team, works on with students. But then for our students who flag quite high, obviously we have Carrie Nitz as our mental health navigator with some of those outside supports. Some students may already be receiving that, other students may not. So again, it's really a partnership with the family too, to just kind of see what we can do for the child.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you for sharing that with us. And then, I'm a real fan of the innovative way you're looking at that inclusion piece and interested in the mentorship and friendship piece you talked about. Can you go a little bit deeper on what that looks like? How do they connect with another student or a mentor?
Yep, good question. So again, we don't have necessarily something that's completely prescriptive and it's going to look the same for every student. We know that all of our students are really unique and different, and we really honor that student voice. So if it was something as far as connection, we would definitely seek that student's input on what other kids they would maybe want to come and have lunch with a counselor, or if it's game days on Fridays for 15 minutes. So again, it would really be individualized based on the student. And then with mentorships, kind of the same thing. The students would have some voice and choice in who they want that adult in the building to be that they can connect with.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
All right, well, thank you, Carrie Jo and Lauren, appreciate it. And now what we'll do
Thank you.
We'll go, Mike's not able to be here. He's taking care of some things with the family, just texted me. So if you want to know what's going on at Bessie Allen, I'll tell you what, all you got to do is go in there with all the links, and he definitely has all that information there and ready to go. This is in there, and everybody also on the community, Mike does a really good job organizing it. So if you want to see anything, it's all right there, ready to go. All right, now we'll move on to Samantha, high school.
Sure. So just to highlight a couple of things, I really want all of us to give a shout out to Jean Hintz. So it was on my board report that she was a recipient of the Wisconsin Athletic Service Award from the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association. So just again, kudos to her for all that she does to support Oriole Nation. She works a ton of our athletic events and certainly, cheers our kids on. So just a shout out to her. Her husband is often at games as well, announcing and working. So again, just a shout out for her. And then I also we have been doing at the high school our giving tree, and just a huge thank you to all of our staff members involved. Our counselors put together kind of here's an idea of a giving tree list, $10 gift cards, hats, mittens, socks, granola bars, popcorn, other items, and within a couple of days, that list is complete by everybody signing up, totally willing and able to donate to our kids. And what we've been able to do, Target has been kind enough to pass to donate some of the red bags for us. And then staff members either nominate students who really it would be nice to reward them with a treat and be able to, have something at the holidays. And then we also look at students who are in need. For many students, the feedback that we receive is by getting that $10 gift card, they are able to purchase something for one of their family members or themselves. So it's a really cool thing that we do. And so when you heard Bianca mention that they were also donating to our Giving Tree, we've been able to really support quite a number of high school students. So that's one of our projects that's just beginning. Jenny Stahl is currently out on maternity leave, so Jill is kind of running the show and back at our counseling area. So it's an operation with her, with Mrs. Flood, with myself, and then again, all of our staff members really supporting that. So just want to thank them for that. Otherwise, in my board report, just indicated a lot of our building slow for our college and career readiness is based on semesters. So we are, inputting if kids are able to share with us what their field of study is or their career that they are currently interested in. And then some of the data pieces will be able to begin at semester. It includes everything from GPA, where they're at in their dual enrollment courses, second semester when they take the AP exam for those classes, that's one of the factors. Attendance at 90% or better each semester. So we'll go through that semester and see where we're at with our numbers of students. Otherwise, we are, I think like Mr. Chisholm stopped in on Friday, we are trying to hang in there. Subbing has been a huge issue at the high school. Mr. Anderson subs frequently, I sub frequently. I often call in Mr. Sadoff for support because we don't have any others. Mrs. Flood has done some double duty. Ms. Nitz, our mental health navigator. We are just really struggling at the high school for subs for a ton of reasons. Just to give you an example, on Friday we had 12 staff members out. So we are trying to get through this week and are looking forward at some point for it to get better or subs to agree to come in and help us out.
That's a good segue, Sam. So anybody listening out there, and if you know of anybody who has an associate degree or above that likes kids, our staff does a great job setting up lesson plans. Come on in, come to the office at the district office, call 920-929-3750. Get you set up, get everything signed up. $100 is what it costs to take the subclass at CESA 6. After 8 times that you sub successfully, that district will pay that back. $120 a day through day 15. And then from that point forward, $130. Plus you get a free t-shirt. So a lot of fun stuff. So if anybody knows anybody, associate's degree or above, that really likes working with kids and likes to work with people, a great staff at all the buildings, give it a run. All right, anything else, Samantha?
No, I think later the agenda item, I'll talk about the student for early graduation, but yeah, that's what I have right now.
Awesome. Does anybody have any questions of Samantha? And just a big shout out to her and the rest of the administrative team, but I know Samantha, in particular, Horace Mann's been hit pretty hard with subs, and I know her, and then I want a big shout out to Becky Marquardt, who does a lot of things in order to try to get that organized during the nights and the weekends. So thank you very much, and I'll be there in the morning to help however I can. All right, thank you. All right, so moving on now, we'll go to Chris, Student Services. Chris Schultz.
Good evening, everybody. I just have a few things to highlight. First of all, I want to say thank you to our special education staff who have helped out with the subbing issues. We really appreciate that. They're working with their students and also covering for teachers. That's been across the board, so just very thankful for that. We're working on filling 2 upcoming vacancies. We have Cindy Vandergallen and Shelley Nyberg, who are both retiring at the end of December, so we're excited for them and working on filling those 2 aide positions. We do have a couple of leads on that, so, and ideally, I'd like to have those people join, in our team in December so they can train, do some on-the-job training and ask questions before they begin, on their own, on their first day. And the last thing was just we're preparing for the December 7th snapshot. This is a snapshot that DPI takes of us. They look at different data collections and different elements. And so we are making sure that all of our data is up to snuff. For special ed, we look at the count of students with disabilities, discipline, and then high school completion. So our team is working hard on that. And that's all I have in addition to what I put in my report. Do you have any questions for me?
Well, thank you, Chris. Oh, really
Okay,
quick.
thank you.
Yep. Hey, Coach Drews, you want to, just want to also, with athletics, a big shout out. I know we honored you a little bit in October, but great job on 5 straight boys championships and another girls one. Well done.
Thank you, Aaron.
Yep, good work. We have a dynasty kicking in cross country now.
We do.
Yes, we were the Kenya of Wisconsin. Good work. All right, excellent. Maria, you just want to give a little, quick rundown, or if you have anything that you'd like to say in the business office?
We too are working on getting things ready for our December 1st snapshot. This is going to be our first look through the lens of WISE Finance. So we are working through that, some coding challenges, but it's all looking good so far. We have been looking at the budget numbers. Aaron will have an update for you on that in closed session. And Bonnie and Aaron and I have been working hard on getting the increases. That document will be coming to you later in closed session as well. I'm working with Adam and Chris and Aaron on ESSER 3 and getting all of those T's crossed and I's dotted so that we are actually going to be, we're allocated $1 million, a little bit over $1 million for that, but there's quite a few hoops to jump through in order to achieve that and to get that. So we are hoping to receive that allocation this year yet. And that window opens at the end of November to start entering data for DPI to look at. Other than that, the office is just coming along. We are back to 100% capacity. We've had a few people in and out as well, but we're happy to have everybody back and up and running.
Thank you, Maria. Appreciate anybody have any questions for Maria? All right, thanks, Maria. And then just FYI, Dave is not here. He's on vacation, so we will not be tapping into him today. So, does anybody have any other questions on the board reports of any of the administrators or any questions of the directors or principals? All right, and I just want to, for the leadership team that's here, and I don't know if Judy's up there, Dave, but I just really appreciate them. It's been a lot in the past 2 years to organize, to structure, to deal with so many different variables, but I appreciate you guys and I'm very grateful for my leadership team. So thank you guys all very much. All right, so at this time then, what we'll do is I'm going to turn it over to Adam. He's going to explain a little bit about the report cards. They have changed since the last that they were put out. That was 2 years ago. So he will go over the report cards, and this is just at the top level. But as a board, as we get into this more, these will be part of our KPIs in time. And we were talking, we're not really surprised at a lot of the different things that we saw, and as Carrie Jo had mentioned, and Mike has also put into his documents, and there's slows of the student learning objectives. And also Samantha with hers at the high school. We're definitely addressing a lot of the different areas where we know we need work. So with this, I'll turn it over to Adam.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Sadoff. Good to see our new board members, John and Terry. Nice to meet you in person here. And that was Terry's daughter's first grade teacher a long time ago, so good to see a familiar face on the board. So, yeah, so basically, it'll be new for some of us on the board, this whole report card piece, unless you've taken some time on your own previously as a parent to look into these. And then for our returning board members, there's some changes that I'll highlight, and some things that you'll hear again for, you know, was the 8th or 9th year we've had report cards, so some things that stayed true in that whole time. So we'll kind of dig into the district report card, but know that we have the district report card, then we have 4 others, 1 for each building. And Treffert Way is our newest report card. They had a rating that was a little bit different this year because they don't have enough years of state testing yet because they're a newer school, but they'll have a report card that looks like the others next school year as long as everything goes smoothly with testing. So Mrs. Dolan and I had to submit for their report card just a write-up that they met their goals and had the highest rating allowable for that alternate report card. So kudos to her for helping put that together and working with me on that. So as we go through again, there are some changes like Mr. Sadoff mentioned. So a little bit of caution with when we compare these report cards to past report cards because of those changes. So there's been changes in the cut scores and the numbers that equal the certain stars. So that's one reason why a little bit of caution with comparing past report cards to current report cards. There's also changes with a new area that makes up the overall score. So we'll talk about that in a second, but that changes a little bit of what's being calculated. So that is why that score can be a bit different. And then also with, there's some gap years due to COVID and not having state assessments. So there's just kind of a lot of variables this year where the state is really talking more about this being a fresh start with report cards. So one comparison that we can make, and then I'll help show you, is how we compare to other schools or other districts like ours, and how we compare to some of the state averages, which I'll show you in the report card, and then you can dig deeper into that on your own as well. And then also too, again, it's going to be just a brief overview, but if anyone would like to sit down with me individually and kind of dig in more, or if you want that historical look, I know I shared in the past just historically how we've kind of compared to other schools and districts across the state, so I can share that information too if the board needs that. So
Yeah, if you want to give me that, I can get that open up.
Sure. Sounds good. Okay, so when we look at the report cards, again, there's so much that goes into them, and it's pretty much changing all the time, but basically, our state report cards measure most of our state assessments and for reading and for math, or for literacy and math, so reading, writing, and math. There also are calculations in the report card for attendance and for graduation, and then some non-scored pieces like our demographics and course offerings that we have at the high school, which is a new piece. So a lot of data points go in, but holistically, most of the report card is going to be based on those state assessment scores for reading and math.
Which are which ones?
Which are, and it depends on the building, but our Ford exam, which is grades 3 through 8, dynamic learning maps, which is an alternate assessment for grades 3 through 12, and then the ACT Aspire and the ACT assessment. So again, as you look through this, know that our state assessments are one part of our balanced assessment system. We don't like to go off of one assessment. We believe that every assessment has its flaws and has its strengths. So that's where we look at one piece of assessment compared to the other assessments we do locally to see if, hey, is that trend true, or is that positive thing happening? Something that we can say, yeah, we're seeing in a couple areas that's really great, or if there's a data point not going the right direction here, we've seen that over multiple measures within our system to know that, yeah, this is something we need to put resources to and time and effort to. So, so just know, again, I think this is a great piece, but it's just one piece of that bigger assessment puzzle. But also, like Mr. Sadoff mentioned too, we, everything on here, we had a look at our state test scores before this report card came out. We also had a look at our district assessments, which typically align with these assessments. So as far as planning around this, we did not hit the panic button when we saw any of this, or didn't really pat ourselves on the shoulders for those good things that were happening or on the backs, because we knew these things were happening and saw them already, and were able to already make decisions that were going to be impacting some of these things that we want to improve on, or reaffirming some of the work that we've done that we saw some positive things. So
no real surprises again with this, just because we're constantly looking at how students are doing and we expect great things. All right, so with that said, the report card this year has a new look. So if you're looking at this page right now, this is the front page of the report card. This is going to look different if you go back and look at past report cards. And all the report cards for every school for every year is out on the DPI website, and that link is on our website as well. And then we have to send these out to our school, our community as well. So that message went out last week. So everything as far as compliance to get this information out is taken care of. The report card still has an overall score, so that's the overall score for our district. And that overall score then also correlates to a number of stars. And it's still 1 to 5 stars. We do have some buildings in our district that are 4 stars, and we have some buildings that really need to, talk to that principal and that staff already, that building needs to be a 5-star building, because they've had 4 stars enough, and that's really not
middle school.
Yep, so that's really not something that, we've kind of been there, done that. We need to really think bigger and, again, feel good about what we've done, but also need to think bigger and always look to improve. So if you scroll up a little bit here, Mr. Sadoff, so that overall score, and all these scores are out of 100, but it doesn't necessarily mean like we think of 100% on a assignment. So a 90%, you might think, ooh, that's a really good score. Well, not necessarily when you look at these different areas. And then also sometimes a 90 might be good in one area, but it might not be good for another area. So that's, again, where the numbers come up due to calculations, and we can kind of see how it fits within the state. But as you see, certain numbers here, don't think, ooh, 40 is really bad. Well, not necessarily. Depends on where it is, or 60 is really good, or 80 is really good. So it kind of depends. But the overall score is made of achievement. So students that are at that proficiency level for reading and math. There's a percentage of that score that's growth. So how students grow from one year to the next. The new area that they added this year is a target group area. That used to be closing gaps. So they used to look at, say, students that are economically disadvantaged and saw how did those students grow and achieve from year to year, and other demographic groups. But now what they're doing is, for this group, which I really like better, is they're looking at, hey, all students can grow and all students can achieve at high levels. We want to look at those students that are in our lowest quartile. So our bottom 25% for our district and for each of our buildings, and see, okay, how do those students achieve, and how do those students grow, and how those students do with graduation and, attendance. So this here is kind of a mini report card for our students that are in that bottom 25th percentile. And then there's another section that is for on track to graduation. This differs depending on the building. Obviously, middle schools, elementary schools don't graduate students, so that score is more heavy with metrics that tie into graduation, like attendance. And for middle school, math scores in 8th grade, and for elementary school, attendance and reading scores in 3rd grade. As you look at this and you look at other report cards, one nice comparison to do is there's a thicker line, which is our district or our school. The bottom line is that state average. So you can see in this case, this is comparing districts in our state to our district. On the school report card, it's the same look, but it's comparing, the thick line is us compared to like schools. So the elementary report card is going to compare to other elementaries in the states, not every school, other elementaries, high schools to high schools, middle schools to middle schools. So as you look at those reports, you can make those comparisons, which are nice, and which we like to see, okay, where do we, are we doing this better than other districts like ours, or other schools like ours, the same? Are we not as good, where we need to learn or get better? So something else, again, with all these scores, to just know that this is multiple years, multiple assessment points. So like a reading score for one student is going to be in the growth part of that calculation. It's also going to come into the achievement calculation, and it might also come into that target group calculation if that student is in that bottom 25th percentile. So one student score can impact all of these areas, and even in this area too, if it's tied to some of those metrics or graduation. So that's where one score can impact a lot of things positively or negatively as far as the calculations go. The other piece I just want to show you, and then I'll open up for questions, is if you, these reports are about 10 pages long. So if you go through, maybe just scroll, maybe one more, Aaron, if you go to this, each page has its own section, or each area has its own like 2 or 3 page section. So here's growth, which we saw on that front page. And one piece that I really like, and I think is gonna be nice for community members or for you as a board to look at, is this chart in all of our reports, which shows you where does our district in this case rank compared to other districts in the state, or where does a building rank compared to other districts. So up here it says this district, so our district, the score for growth is the same as or higher than 43% of districts in the state. So I think of that as a data person as a percentile. So we're in that 42nd percentile. 50th percentile would be average for the district for this metric. Anything above that would be above average. Below it, I would say below average. So being in that 43rd percentile, hey, we're right around that average for this calculation. We do have some percentiles, if you take a look, where we're in the 80th percentile for certain buildings, certain areas, or 60th, 65th percentile. So we have some higher percentiles that are really good. We have some lower ones that we know about. Our achievement percentiles are not where they should be and not where we expect them to be. We again know that all students can achieve at high levels, and those are things that we know can improve, and we know our students are great here and they can do it. So as you look through each of the individual reports, pay attention to those charts, and it's just a nice way to look at them and gives you some sense of, okay, what does that number mean? Again, lots more information there. I'm happy to meet with anyone individually if you want to dig in more, or for John or Terry, if you're new, if you're like, yeah, I need more information, but I know some of us have kind of been through this before, but yeah, kind of leave it at that for now for sake of time, and just open up to any questions you might have.
So I had one. You had mentioned how the comparison is for like schools.
Mm-hmm.
What goes into determine what like school means? Is it just like size? Is it?
Yeah, so in that graph I showed you where you kind of can have that percentile, that's just the like schools would just be, if it's an elementary report, it's elementary schools.
Okay.
If it's a middle schools. What I do and what I'll send Mr. Seth, he can send to you, is I take a look at every year, and I have it historically, where we rank holistically for each school and each in our district report. And then I also break it down by schools and districts our size, just see, okay, based on enrollment, how do we compare? And then I also look at that by our poverty rate to see how do we compare to students that are within our poverty rate or close to that. So again, that's where some of those rankings, when you see that, you'll see that, there's been times where we've had schools or reports in the top 10 in the state or really high for some of those comparables that are out there. So does that answer that question?
It does, yeah. And then I had one more, if you don't mind. The multi-unit piece or multi-year piece that you said.
Yeah.
How is that addressed with the change last year not having?
Yeah.
Like, how does that impact the result?
Yeah, great question. So that's where this report card is really unique, and it'll be unique this year, and then we'll get back to maybe some normalcy in a couple of years here. But there is typically 3 years worth of data points for some of the assessment metrics. But on this report and for a year or two, we'll have a 4-year window because they have 3 years of data, but then that gap year is what they're calling. So that's again where that comparing this to past report card is a little bit tricky because that gap year that's in there. And not every data point is 3 years or 2 years worth of data, sometimes just 1 year. So there's a lot that goes into it that it really depends on the assessment, the area you're looking at, and I think DPI has about a 200-page document if you want to dig into all the calculations, which I've looked through, took one for the team there, and can't say I internalized it all, but it's quite a document. So
I appreciate it.
Yeah. One thing I'll tell you is we look at this as a flashlight, and we know we have achievement big time. And when you look at, I'll just speak specifically to friendship, the adoption of Lucy Calkins and Readers Writers Workshop, and has been huge. Bridges for math this year has been huge. So a lot of what we see, we're really excited, not so much for this report card, but for next report card to see how some of these things are being implemented. Also, one thing I just want to point out, this is Horace Mann High School, and you'll also see that there are some snafus like that you heard about the look at or the data pulls. We continually try to clean up our data so it's accurately reflected, and sometimes we just miss out. And DPI doesn't allow you to self-correct some things. It all has to be from pulling from our Skyward system through the WISE Dash and Ed5, a whole bunch of different things. So, but what's really cool about this report card, if you go into it, like back here, so we do have advanced courses. We have AP and we have CAP. It just didn't get pulled from there. So when you look at that, you say, oh, there's no advanced courses. We have many. Really cool dual enrollment. We're at about 36.2% of our students take dual enrollment classes, meaning they're getting credit at the Tech or UW Oshkosh while also in high school. So this is kind of neat. And then also starting to look at art and dance and music and theater. So you can see that 24.5% of our kids, 1 out of 4 are into music. And that's when Samantha was talking about career and college ready. These are things that have a really strong correlation to students, besides just the reading and math scores. What else are they enrolled in? What else are they doing while they're in school? So that's one of the things that I hope that now we're going to be in a good, consistent report card that we're going to be able to keep looking back and seeing how we're growing and stuff like that. So, but as Adam said in our balanced assessment situation, this is one of many. It's based on that one-time test, the Florida exam, which is in the spring, ACT, which every student takes. That's in the spring regardless. That's a big change when people say, well, look at our ACT scores have dropped. Well, back in the day, we might have had 30 out of 100 kids take the ACT or 40. Now 100 out of 100 take it. And one final thing that I'm also very proud of is we really want our kids to take these exams instead of saying, well, no, because you have this certain amount of opt-out and things like that. But we like our kids just for the data piece of it so that we can see where people are at. And once again, this isn't a hammer, it's a flashlight, and it's a piece of data that can really help us.
And just to mention, to piggyback off that, these scores you see here, they're informational, but they don't go into any calculations. So they're just reported, and there's other data that just is reported, but not in those overall scores. So just keep that in mind too. And other questions or
Adam, I have a question. As we found out, and you've just touched the tip of the iceberg about the depth of this report and what goes into the numbers and all the other stuff, but the newspaper every year, the social media and stuff seems to pick up on just one thing, the overall score, without understanding what all goes into that. And I kind of think it's similar to like the college football rankings. They want to have a ranking out there. But from my understanding this year with the overall score, if you could talk to that about, there's 425 school districts in the state. I think there's a very high percentage of them all dropped, similar to what we did from the old test and the old metrics to what went into this stuff. And I just wondering if you saw that. Obviously, I think you did.
Yeah, I would say majority, if you look at scores across the state, which I haven't specifically, but know people that have and have reported this. But basically most report cards, regardless of building or just report, went down due to just that COVID, and achievement scores went down. So then these calculations decreased. So it's again, comparing an overall score from last year to this year is a little bit tricky because of that piece. But I think, did I answer that, or is that?
Yeah, I think that was my point, that we're not on an island here by our score dropping from in the 70s to the 65.3. That's almost universal. Obviously, there's affluent districts where there's a lot of successful students and families, and they're high every year, and they maybe didn't have much of a drop, or may have increased in certain areas. But okay, so that was my point.
Yeah, so definitely, just to make that point, it's definitely tough to do that comparison again, thinking about testing too, having that achievement decrease across the state caused report cards, in most cases, to go down across the board as far as that overall score.
Thank you.
Adam, so I'm just going to use, because it was used as an example, Friendship, our grade school with, changed with Lucy Caucus and now with the Bridges. So, when we're looking at these scores and new curriculum, or, how long before we're like, oh, this is working, or, oh, this really isn't working, or, and is it a year? Is it 3 years? And turnaround time for that?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on, a few different factors, but, I think, we have examples in our district where we see that data change right away when we implement something. We have examples where we don't see it, till down the road. So typically when you're implementing something, at a district level or building level, I always think about that 3 to 5 years. And I always speak to when you have 1 year of something, some data changing, it's tough to say, was it really that or was it something else we did? So it's kind of an unknown. When you have 2 years, you have a positive trend in that right direction. And then when you have 3 years, that's what I call that new reality. So, then it pretty much is going to be just how things happen, how that day is probably going to look from there on. So, again, kind of depends on the program, depends on a couple different factors. But yeah, we've had instances of both where we've done something that data has changed right away. We've had sometimes where it takes a little bit because there's a lot that goes into that. And some programs too, talking to different vendors and different practitioners in the field, sometimes they'll say, hey, with this, I was just talking to one last week, when we implement this, typically we see that data change that year. It's not it's going to change in 3 years, it's going to change that year. So it just depends. So to kind of not answer your question, but with
One thing I'll tell, hey, Carrie Jo, are you there?
Yeah, I was gonna ask if I could add on to
Yeah,
that.
if you
Go
could
ahead.
talk, I think what would be helpful is if you share a little bit of the Lexia and just like a specific program within the school that you'll reference also in your SLO and in your board reports that that can to piggyback on Adam to say, how something can have an impact now or later. So if you had just kind of what your goals are as far as achievement goals and literacy with
Sure.
Lexia.
Yeah, so specific to our friendship report card, I know there's something on the screen, I'm just not sure where it's at, but again, our ELA, when you look at our scores specifically in that area, the English language arts, that connects directly to our Lucy Calkins, and you can see that all of the growth points are to the right of the bar, and I don't know, and I'll see if you can pull that up, but we are outperforming for growth. And again, our students were not at proficiency before. So we really are working on that growth first because that's what's going to get us to proficiency. So I did reference that specifically in the report, but I think the visual on the report card really shows it well. Where again, we want all of those little captions to be to the right of the indicator. And then with, so like Adam said, the implementation of Lucy Calkins is typically a long game. They told us when we purchased the curriculum that it could be anywhere from 3 to 5 years with it implemented to fidelity, which includes our teachers being trained at Teachers College. And again, we still have some teachers that need that formal training. We have about, I'd say maybe 75% of our staff have gone through that, and COVID again interrupted that somewhat. And then we also, like I said, we're seeing that growth in our students, and the proficiency is what we need to continue working on. So we've supplemented that with Lexia, as Erin mentioned. That's our Tier 2 curriculum. So it supplements the instruction in Lucy Calkins. And what we see with that is it's delivering instruction. It's computer-based to start. It delivers instruction at the individual student level. So regardless of what age grade level they're in, if they're behind, it'll deliver lessons at their ability, and then it adjusts from there. So altogether, the growth, I can monitor. Our teachers have a dashboard as well, where they can monitor their class data. I can monitor our grade level and our school-wide data. And again, just as far as where we started the school year with students that are working within grade level to where we are now, we've doubled the number of students that are working within grade level material since we started the school year. So that's where we're also working on that proficiency piece and being able to differentiate where we weren't equipped to do that on the scale that we are right now prior to starting that pilot last January. So I do think, as I mentioned in our school objectives, that if we do have our students growing at their projected rates based on accessing Lexia along with the teacher instruction and our Lucy Calkins, we do expect that our proficiency numbers will definitely increased to be more representative of what a typical RTI triangle would look like with, 80% of your students performing at or above grade level.
And if we can get that, that's a game changer for then middle school and high school, because these kids are reading. And then to the same point, Carrie Jo, I have that pulled up, and Adam, you can show it there. You can see our math, the value added for math wasn't so good, and we knew that, and that's where that investment in Bridges, and then also at the middle school, adopting the new curriculum also, correct?
Yeah, so again, that, this piece, we knew that, and we'd already, long before that, made changes and have been doing some work around math across the district, because, again, we don't need to wait for something like this to tell us. We can figure that out through other measures as well.
Thank you, Carrie Jo.
You bet. And then we'll see, again, and you said, we'll expect to see changes with that with Bridges. We're already seeing the engagement and the excitement in our students and even our teachers with a new math curriculum that just delivers math instruction in a completely different way. It's not new math, it's just more hands-on and more engaging. So we're excited about that too.
Thank you, Adam. Anything else?
Yeah, any other questions or thoughts here?
I just have one other, and this is not, I don't know how to ask it or say it without it sounding kind of negative, and I really don't mean it to be in a negative way. But we always seem to do a lot of work, and I know that we have to build with grade schools, and have it go through our entire district. But we always seem to be, looking at what we can do in our grade school, and our middle school has been exceeds expectation. And then we're doing good things in our high school, but then we kind of get there, and I don't know if there's maybe not necessarily like a curriculum like there is Bridges or Lucy Calkins, but what are we doing in our high school? I mean, is there a certain curriculum that we're using, or is it just, I guess I don't know that answer.
Yeah, and, with the last couple of years of just kind of our unique situation where we weren't able to get teachers together as much to have those conversations, and one of our focuses for this year is just getting back to that basic piece. So as far as curriculum goes, our curriculum is the state standards. So we're looking to get students to mastery in those high leverage state standards. And at the high school level currently, for say ELA, it's through different texts that we bring in, not a CAN program, but different texts that students are reading, either a whole group or small groups, and then different writing things. So there isn't a CAN program at the high school for that, but to your point, yeah, definitely right, that, we have an interesting dynamic, when we look at kind of assessment scores, the elementary, middle school, and then high school, and it kind of has almost that, that curve to it. So, again, a couple things go into that, I think, you have, you have different buildings, all have the different things going on, which is one piece of it, but ultimately, again, we believe in our students big time, and we believe in our staff. And, I think another focus that we have that we're starting to think about is where, we want to make sure we're getting students in grade level work and grade level content consistently. Sometimes, we're trying to play that catch-up game where there's also research, really strong research that says, especially reading, that kids learn to read when they're in that grade level content. And if you never get them exposed to that, they'll never catch up, because they'll just be constantly in that lower level. So, so there's some of the things that we're thinking about and working on, and getting those teams back together to talk about, again, what do we want students to learn? How do we know they're learning that? And then how do we make adjustments when they do or don't understand that? So kind of that back to basics right now. But yeah, as far as the set program, we don't have it at the high school, which is pretty typical of most schools, just the nature of it. But again, the curriculum is those standards. How do we teach those standards? And I'm sure I brought this data up before, but when you look at all the standards across K-12 for every content area, it would take 23 years for a school district to teach those standards to mastery, and we only have 13 years with kids. So again, we prioritize standards so that we are working with our teams to work on those really high leverage, high endurance standards is our focus. Not that all standards are important, but there's some that do carry more weight than others.
Samantha, I saw that you got muted. What do you got, Pat?
Sure, so just sharing, I think that's a really good question, Vicki, because, like Adam's mentioning the standards. So Adam had brought in a rep, I'm blanking on her name, but a couple years ago that both our ELA and our math departments, 612 worked with Adam and then the rep to really look at those standards and make what's called priority standards. And then they were able to, have a little bit different conversation. English, for example, they can share. So they really kind of discovered together, hey, we have a gap of informational text missing. So they were able to address that. Like Adam said, getting back on track. So I think he's in process right now of just setting up very similar meetings for social studies and science, so that again, they can begin that work of looking at their state standards, but developing them into priority standards, and then being able to, look at their scope and sequence, look at their units of study, and really, again, continue on those in-depth conversations. So, definitely that work, we definitely have some work to do. Some of it has been done by ELA and math. When you go back to like the FIED staff, when they got the PEP grant years ago, they had to do some of that curriculum work. So now, right now, they're kind of in the phase of having to re-get together and review where are we at, where are kids at. The music department, I know K-12 is working with Carrie Jo. CTE has standards. They're a little bit unique, but they've had a little bit of training in prior years with Tanya Kilpatrick from CSTOP. So working on it, but definitely I hear you that we continue to work with Adam and look at what we need to accomplish.
Thank you.
And the work is never done, just so, as a board, you're clear on that, because even when we have identified those priority pieces and have those conversations about what kids know, what they don't know, and how we respond to that, our kids change every year, or life or just generations, it changes. So that's where we always want to review that and make sure that the learning that we're expecting from students and when we're teaching that is always current and consistent, so.
And one thing I'll leave with the high school opportunities, we have really worked on, everything from CAP classes with UW Oshkosh, AP classes and psychology. We have, I think, one of the best technology education construction programs that we have. CTE, when you start looking at our computer, our incubator EDU, Stephanie and all of our food service. So there's a lot of opportunities that our kids have, but I'm really excited about how it continues to grow, and I'm glad that the report card also shows some of those things, because those are some things that that you don't see in just one test that does math and reading. So yeah, we have a lot of work to do, but we have a lot that we should be proud of also. Anything else for Adam?
No, I don't have a question. I just have a comment. So I took my son and another kid over to Coloma, where they did the operators, engineers, and they did a lot of talking about, expectations, and what I kind of laughed at is, so there's probably 500 kids there in the group, and so these are all hands-on kids, right? They're not necessarily, I don't want to say that they're not the smartest of the group, but they're the ones that just want to get things done, right? And so they talked about, well, we need to see your ACT scores, and they kind of looked at each other like, what? We have to do good in our ACT, so I thought that was really good, that even though they're a hands-on career, that they're still looking at, you guys still need to do well in this. So I thought that was really good. It opens some
Vicki, right,
your
to share
eyes.
with you, because that's a struggle often, that if kids are like, hey, we're going into hands-on, or we're going to MBTC, we don't need to do well in our ACT. And what we've learned the past couple of years is exactly what you're saying, that the higher score that you get, it can help you with your apprenticeship program. For MPTC, it will help you with your entrance exams. So we're trying to really use all of that to help support, hey, just do your best, you guys. That's all we need you to do.
I just had to chuckle at them.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same with the ASVAB for the military. I mean, the higher you score on there, the better chances you have to get to different, MOSs within all the different branches. So, yeah, cool. Well, thank you, Adam, very much. I appreciate your time. Cool. All right, so just finally, kind of some some announcements, the 21-22 calendar, I'll have at, the December meeting, it's pretty much done. I'll get it out to the staff for one final look at. I gave all the leadership team, they've been sharing it. And then next year, Mike Gonzalez is gonna lead a team that'll do the calendar development, which is way cool. I mean, there's not a whole bunch of options you can do in there, but there are some. So, that'll be coming. Administrator contracts, I'll have in January or December. I'll talk about the request for increases for everybody tonight, but those contracts won't come till December, January. Holiday concerts are coming up, so rock and roll with that, to Anthony, Julia, and to Mike. And by the way, nice electronic music today. Everybody's an artist, well done. And then Mike, what are you guys, what's the date of, in January?
For,
The Bucks?
well, concerts, December 1st, 8th, and 15th, middle school band is on the 1st, 8th is high school and middle school choir, and then the 15th is high school band, all at the PAC. And then January 19th, middle school band, 7th and 8th grade band has again been invited by the Milwaukee Bucks, the world champion Milwaukee Bucks, to perform the national anthem and Pfizer performed in Milwaukee before a game. So this is the second time we've done it in 4 years, so that's quite the honor for our students.
Yeah, and I think you included them on that email.
I should have. It was on the all district employees.
Okay.
There are tickets available from a ticket block that we have. So obviously I put it out on social media for anybody in the community, as well as board members, as well as staff, as well as anybody. So if you are interested in purchasing tickets, feel free to contact me.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike,
You
very
had
much.
that email, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I did.
said, Okay.
Okay.
All right, and then finally also, so starting December 1st, which is a Wednesday, I believe, is when people can take out and start getting signatures for running for the Board of Education. And it's a month, it's due the first Tuesday, I think,
Tuesday.
in January. So everybody who's gonna be running, there's also some forms that people have to sign in order to declare for that. So anybody out there that wants to run for Board of Education, just contact Sarah Drews, S. Drews, at nfdlschools.org. She'll have all this stuff, or you can always reach out to me. And now because of the diligent work of the school district, we don't need to get 100 signatures, it's 30. So just 30 signatures and get on that ballot. If there is more than 6 people, because there will be 3 open board seats, Pete's position is up for a 3-year term. Paula would have been up for a 3-year term, so that's gonna be, there'll be another 3-year term. And then the vacancy by Sean, he would have been had a 2-year. So what'll end up happening is that there'll be 3 openings, 2 for 3 and 1 for a 2-year. The 2 top vote getters get the 3-year terms. The 3rd highest gets a 2-year term. And what you need to do is just come on into the district office and get all the paperwork you need and get your signatures and rock and roll. So just an update on that.
Primary date, if we have more than 6.
Then there'll be a primary, I believe it's the 4th Tuesday in February or something like that. So that's all in there. So we'll find out, we'll know how many people we have running at the beginning of January. And from there, we'll work with Lisa Freiberg, our awesome county clerk, and make sure we get everything set. If we do have contested seats, we'll probably end up, the village in the past has helped post like moderation where there's some questions that are asked and people can meet the candidates a little more. So that information coming up. And other than that, you remember last month we talked about the house on Michigan, the building trades. Well, working Ann Lizaway, who's a great partner of ours and alumni with Preferred Properties, and then Todd Smith with Smith Builders, they work with Mike. And I want to thank Nick and Leonard and the board with Mike Streeter and Chuck Horning and the whole group at the village for offering us such a great deal on that piece of property behind Northern Battery. But as we listened to our experts, Ann Lizaway and Todd Smith, the amount of money it would have cost to build there versus on the return of what we could get for a house in that area just isn't going to pan out. So what they did is we're not purchasing that right now, but I want to thank the village once again for taking to us, and we want to continue to be great partners, and we will. Looking at some other lots, more information to come on that. Because the bottom line is working with Ann and Todd is we don't want to build something we can't sell, or we don't want to price ourselves out of a neighborhood. So we're very diligent about that and very thankful for their partnership, and Mike will be working with them. Also, Dave's involved with that too. So just an update on that. And that's what I got. You guys have any other questions of me or the administrative team? And thanks again, Adam, for that good look. And Adam will he really does a good job too at comparing like social economic status and size buildings. Like one of the great things with Bessie Allen, it's with Brandon Middle School no longer existing, it's the highest rated middle school in Fond du Lac County. So 6.8. So I mean, and you can compare and contrast how it looks compared to other schools and Friendship and Best and Horace Mann. So it's pretty cool that it kind of puts things relatively together. so that, you know, that you kind of can do that compare and contrast, so.
And just to add one more thing, I'm just thinking back to Vicky's question, but for perspective too, high school report cards across the state, they're the lowest of the group of schools. So I think the average across state is 67, I think ours is 65 maybe, so again, not that we're okay with that, but you know, that perspective, and typically as you go from lower building levels to upper, the scores decreases the trend across the state, so.
And like I said, I'm excited for next year's, because a lot of things that we're doing right now. And you know, the upside too is we look at our open enrollment numbers are up in the, you know, odds higher than ever before. And that was another nice thing on the report card. You could see some of that data that wasn't there before. Like, I think it's 20% of our students are open enrolled. So, I mean, you can see some of that other information and data that isn't just reading and math, because we do so much more. Those are very important when we do many other things too. All right, that's all I got.
Okay.
So are we past the future board agenda items? So I know that we've kind of sort of talked about eventually talking about the 0 hour. Is that something that we can eventually
Yes,
talk a little bit about?
Yep. Samantha, are you there?
She's gone.
All right, we'll have a presentation.
I'm here.
Hi. Hey, 0 hour, can you put something together on the past, what you've done and some of your thoughts for, to share in December?
Yes.
All right, excellent. So there you go.
Thank you.
You bet. Thanks, Sam.
Yeah, no problem.
All right.
More than just the high school?
No, pretty much.
0 hour, so it would be limited to the high school.
Yep. And there's some things that go on before and after school, like jazz band at the middle
Actually,
school.
jazz band is moved to after school.
After school. Okay. All right, that's all I got. Good call on that one.
Anything else, Becky?
No.
Okay. All right, next on the agenda is items of new business. Number 1, discuss and consider edits to the return to school plan.
All right, so what I did is we had a special meeting. We're now in Mass, highly recommended. And you know, depending on the data, we changed data to be local, more so. And then we also, we're seeing more rooms at the elementary school. I'm asking because we are seeing some COVID going through the elementary school right now. That's where we have our most input. So I know that the board wanted this as a new business. The one metric that I would recommend working with Bridget that I would say change right now, we have in-school spread. So we have it into the classroom in elementary, and if we see in-school spread, then we mask that. Classroom, which we're seeing that right now. In the high school, middle school, if we have 4 in-school spread, that's not deemed that, then we'll mask the 2 weeks in the middle high school combined. We have that. And then the other one was we used the county or the Fond du Lac, our school district numbers of new cases over 100,000 or per 100,000 over 2 weeks. That's just advisory now. We're not using that anymore. The other one was the number of students 19 and under that are COVID positive. And it was right around 20 that we saw that we had that metric set. One of the things that came up was, you know, maybe they're 18 and 19-year-olds that don't go to school here. Maybe they're 2 and 3-year-olds that don't go to school here. Or possibly they could be students that go to WLA or maybe St. Mary Springs that live here. So working with Bridget, instead of using the 19-year-old and under data, use data specific to our students. If we have a total of 20 active COVID-19 positive cases, and not in school spread, but 20 active cases amongst our students, the total districts, then we require masks for 15 days. So that would once again make it more local to us. And that would be the only suggestion that would be to make the change in our metrics.
So I have a couple just questions, observations, I guess, if you will. So we have, I like that we're not, you know, I like that we're thinking about the 0 to 19-year-olds and, you know, and I guess I wish that if we're gonna have metrics, which you know that I don't like anyways, but why can't we just keep them in the school, period, right? Which I think is what we're trying to do.
Yep.
And then if you look at it, so we're consistent through, so for example, we're doing friendship, right, per class.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just, you know, I don't know on average how many kids are in a classroom, but I'm just gonna say if you have 1 in-school spread, I just to make math simple, I'll use 20 or 25. So that's basically 4%. Yes, 4% of 25 is 1, or 20 is 1, right? So if we would use, you know, I guess where are we getting these numbers from? And can we be consistent through the school if you're going to use any at all? So, and I believe that a lot of other schools are using like 4%. So 4% of BAMs in the high school, how many kids are, you know, 600 total between
At
BAMs
Friendship. And BAMs and Horseman are
BAMs and
about
Horseman?
360, 460. You're looking at 820, 800.
Oh, wow.
I guess,
More
well, yeah,
closer to
just
7.
working with,
But I mean, so then I'm just 32, I don't know, 8 times 4 is 32 instead of 20. You know, so that's what I guess what's the magic number of 20?
I don't know if the magic number of that is that's what we've been utilizing. And we definitely do see, like right now, we definitely are seeing, you know, in the elementary school, the numbers are ticking up. We're definitely seeing that.
And so, and those are positive cases, correct?
Yep.
Are any of them in hospital?
No, they aren't. And and this is my recommendation, I don't think anybody's gonna change their mind of how they feel about masking or COVID.
I agree with you.
So I guess, well, my
But my point
recommendation
is that they're, you know, little ones don't get COVID as severe as they get the flu. That's out there. That is, nobody can tell me that they haven't read that, because that is out there and that is an absolute scientific fact. So, you know, and again, I come back to the flu, when we had that huge year of having, 20% of our kids out or something like that. And, you know, that was when we were gonna possibly close schools. So if we're looking at 20 to 30% of our kids out of school, so then it's 15%, just throwing a number out there, that why don't you mask then at half of that, which is 15%, which is a heck of a lot more numbers than that. But I guess I just, can we make it consistent? So if you're gonna do 1 out of every class, which on average, I'm just gonna say is 20 kids in a class, which I don't know, is that true or not true? You know, why not make it 4% through the entire district? Just so.
in my perspective, as I talk with Nurse Bridget, I see what goes on in the classes, and once again, I know there's gonna be people that there's disagreements on things, but our main goal is to keep our schools open and keep kids from having to quarantine and having COVID. That's just what it is. And then our testing's been working great. We actually ran out of tests last Friday, and we're finding a lot when we do the testing that they don't have COVID, that they, have some other things, which is great, which then we look at that according. We still, listen to Fond du Lac County Health Department and what their input is. So just trying to do our best. And so, yeah, this is just my recommendation.
Can I add something just from the perspective of friendship? For us, we obviously didn't want any of our kids to be sick, but we also realized that whether it's the flu or chickenpox or whatever could be going around, right? Kids get sick. But what we do know is that when kids are out due to COVID, that whether they're regardless of how they're feeling, they're just missing a significant amount of school if they do contract COVID. And as of, Sunday night, we had 12 students at Friendship that were positive. So as Erin mentioned, we're seeing that uptick. And when you think about those kids needing to be out of school for, almost 2 weeks, it's just really difficult for our staff. It's difficult on the students just to make sure that we're not missing that learning. So that's a piece that we haven't really talked about that has nothing to do with the severity of COVID. It's just if somebody is positive for COVID, we know that they're out for a period of time, regardless of how severe that illness is. And again, we just, as Erin said, we want to keep our kids in school regardless. So just take that into consideration, please.
Thanks.
So Aaron, would you review again for me what the practice is at Friendship today?
Right now, it's at Friendship, if there's somebody positive for COVID, then what there is in that classroom, they're all close contacts because they're pretty much all together all the time. And then if one of those students, after there's a positive contact, Nurse Bridget, that somebody else gets COVID, another student in that classroom, talk to the parents, do their investigation, find out that probably, I mean, you can never prove anything, but more so than not, pretty sure that it was because of that exposure in school, then that class mass.
You have 3 classrooms now?
3 right now, there could be more, depending on how the information comes back.
So it's not just one positive COVID test, it has to be one spread.
And
Correct.
Suspicion of.
Correct. And we could get to a level, I mean, with the holidays, we're gonna take a break of thinking about this for a few days. We'll see what happens. I don't really know. I mean, right now, what I'm trying to do is, when we talked last time, we're trying to really just dial in our metrics to be us, kind of, sleep in the bed that we make. And this does that this takes away from just the community that, tomorrow we'll look at how many cases under 19 and, really if it's 40, hey, but how many do we have in our school? How many of our kids are positive to COVID? That's what that number would switch to instead of just the community.
That's the item that's before the board now on this.
Well, that's my recommendation.
Right. So the former of the community-wide 19 and under was something from the health department.
Correct.
Right. That wasn't our input. We used that. But as time has gone on and we've been going through this, we think it's more fair to use just our numbers of
Correct.
19 and under.
Correct.
Which seems reasonable. So I'll make a motion to change the plan to include that change of, however you want to word it, to the 19 and under.
Or to be active cases of our students.
Active cases of our students.
So I'm hearing a motion to accept the recommendation to restrict it to our students, 19 and under.
That would be the highlighted,
Yeah.
yellow highlighted language in that, on that box.
Right. Yep. So it's 20 active cases, so over 20 active cases. Before it was over 20 active cases of 19 or under. Now it's 20 active cases, if the board's pleasure, of our students. So if it says 25 tomorrow, that doesn't mean we necessarily mask. How many do we have of our students that have COVID?
And that's a district-wide number.
Correct.
Okay.
So 20 active COVID-19 positive cases out of 1,500 kids.
Correct.
All right, so I have a motion on the floor to accept the recommendation that's highlighted in yellow that was presented to the board. Do I hear a second? I have a motion on the floor. I'm looking for a second. I'll second it. All right, I have a motion and I have a second to accept the recommendation to limit the exposures to our students only. Are there further questions or discussion on the motion?
Can I just, so what percentage is that of our kids? I'm sorry, I can't do math.
It's a small one.
1,400 seats. Roughly 1.5%.
You know, I always feel like I have to preface this because do I want anybody ever sick? No, I don't. But come on, 1%, less than 1%? That's not a good number. Okay.
And just so that we're clear, that is 20 people in all of the district, not just
Correct.
the middle school, high school.
Correct. It's more, I mean, it was more restrictive before this recommendation. So, I mean, I'm just looking forward to being in school the most that we can and keeping things rocking.
Other schools have been in school too, and they haven't.
They've been masking, they've been doing different things.
On and on.
And we have to, but this is my recommendation and working with Bridget, so. And I've tried to be as pragmatic and as we've learned more change. And that's.
Well, just something to consider. I think that you've got a plan in friendship that's easy to manage today. You've got a case and suspecting of spread, and then you're masking that classroom. Now, obviously, you can't do that in the middle school and the high school. What about considering the number of 20 for the middle school and high school and leaving how you're handling friendship alone? That would be a higher percentage of students because you'd only be considering the middle school and high school.
I'm going off of talking with Bridget, so I mean. Well, that's what I'm doing. I mean, we could put other numbers. I'm living every day just trying to.
I'm just offering it as a suggestion, is to use the number of 20 in the middle school and high school and leave friendship as you're handling it today.
We'd have to get rid of the motion that's already been there.
No,
Just for, I'm just.
I'm satisfied with my motion. I think, the cases keep going up and then we keep easing the restriction, and that's illogical to me.
They were worse when we were max.
There's a motion before the board.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on the motion?
So it puts us in a really bad spot. So if we vote no to this, which I don't know what everybody's voting, it goes back to more restrictive than what this is. And if we vote yes, it's still, I don't know, it's like a no-win situation to me, but okay, there's a motion on the floor. So.
Okay. Any other further comments or discussion from the board?
I think it's just important to know that, I think Steve hinted on it earlier, we just continue to peel back the onion on what we're allowing. So I think it's important that we put the best interest of everyone in the community when we make our decision. So,
And
that,
75 to 90% of the people want choice, and we represent those people.
Where are you getting that statistic?
but it was also discussed last time that minimal to no people
Look,
of under the age of 19 were in the hospital or, God forbid, died from this disease, and that's incorrect. That's completely false. And I'm not willing to sit up here and allow one person to even have that opportunity.
it's
So-
not our choice, it should be the parents' choice.
But it's our choice to provide a safe environment for our kids and our staff to provide the education to drive those achievement results.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm good with that. Before I make my vote, I wanted that clear.
All right. Other comments or questions on the motion from the board? All right, so in front of you is the recommendation to change the metric to 20 active cases for 19 years of age and under.
No, for the school
For
district.
the district, but only our students. That's the motion. All right, so I'll call a roll call vote, please.
Hawk,
Yes.
Jaeger,
Yes.
Geckerman,
No,
Chisholm,
Yes.
Goldowski, no.
All right, motion carries. And we have an altered metric. Next on the new item of business is first reading of policy edits, deletions, and additions.
All right. Fun stuff here. So I got this information out to all of you guys. This was probably about 3 weeks ago. So what I did is, with the login, I know some of you might have got on there, some not, but what I did is this is, as you guys can see here, here's all the different policies, edits, and deletions. So what I did is I highlighted. I'm not going to go through all, but you can see the changes here. Some of them we see ethics deleted, school report card deleted, substance abuse deleted. You can see that it's very, like it's in the professional staff, the hourly wage staff, and also administration. You'll see those consistencies. Wherever a policy is deleted, it's just put somewhere else, okay? So none of these policies have been deleted and are addressed somewhere else. And then if you look at the new ones, the yellow, conducting cultural or virtual classrooms. That wasn't something we had to have before, and that just says that students have to behave if they're virtual also. Waiver fees and fines new. This has to do with what we already do with homeless and free and reduced lunch. We already are very open to working with families and not charging families for things that they might not be able to afford. So those are the only two new ones. And then on the blue ones, those I want to talk a little bit more in depth. And then what I'll do is I'll talk about those. And then if the board has any other comments about any of those other policies, remember, there is no action on this. And what's going to happen is the input that I get from everybody here, I'll end up then making those nuances and changes. Then we'll have the second reading in December, and then I will call Richard and Neola, Sarah and I, and then they'll be updated. And as you've probably been going, I was talking with Pete too, I'm pretty proud of our policies and how we're staying on top of them and updating them. So first off, public comments at meetings. So let's look at that. Here we go. So here's the changes that are the recommendations that we've talked about, and also from Richard. So we've always had this as part of our agenda, which is always something that the district's been doing. We just haven't had in policy, and that's only citizens that live in the district boundaries can participate in public comment. It's been like that for 13 years that I've been here, but now we'll make it in there. And then this is something that also was recommended by Richard that is pretty typical, that employees of the district should not use public comment to address any work-related items. These items shall be addressed through a different channel with the district administrator. We didn't have that in there, so any workplace or grievances, there's other processes to go about that for any employees. And then if there's anything when there's a public comment that there's some fact information, like last week there was an ESSER question, like, hey, you have to mask. The only way you can get ESSER 3 money is if you have kids masked, which isn't true. So there's some things like normally when it was with comments, if there was no discussion or back, but if there's some really quick ones, this would allow for that and also for some fact checking. And then these other things are also right from recommendation from Neola, that the board may authorize administration to arrange for recording, which we do all the time. And then also signage and banners. This was happening in different areas, not so much here. But what people will do is they come and they maybe move them around and try to be distracting with banners. So that just says that that's not allowed. So those are just the public comment recommendations. Any questions on those, or?
I have a couple, or at
Sure.
least thoughts.
Yeah.
So I know it has always been only citizens that live in the district. And, for the most part, I would agree with that. But we have how many kids that are open enrolling? And I just think that.
Do you want to add like or parents of open enrolled students? I don't know. Steve, you might have some input on that.
Well, I think the root of that has always been that the people who pay the taxes that operate the school district are the people who live in the district boundaries. That's where it came from, I believe.
Right.
It was around before my time, so.
And I would agree with that, except I guess having a comment about how your school is run and voting for that are two different things. I mean, they don't get to vote on it, but I feel that if they're sending their kids here, they should have a say,
At least have a platform.
at
to be
least
able to
have a
make comment.
platform to, to address it, address something versus, I don't know.
But I'll say, Steve, to your point too, and I was thinking about that also. Our district is about 25% of the funding that runs this district comes from our taxpayers. 75% come from federal or from state aid. So in essence, people all over the state are paying for our school district. So, but yet I think, like maybe I'm just thinking out loud here, that only citizens that live in the school district boundaries or parents of open enrolled students, because they have an interest also. So it would be one of the things that has gotten a lot of districts that don't have something like this as a practice is they'd have people from different areas that would just come in and speak at that moment. They didn't have any interest within that school district, but they just went and spoke at different board meetings. So that's something there, but we've always done this, but I think from a funding standpoint and from that platform, that I would say that might be something that the board does consider, that either it's either you're a district resident or you have an open enrolled student.
I support that because I agree. I think that they at least ought to have an avenue to make a comment. So I've always felt that was kind of funny that it was only taxpayers. We have a lot of open enrolled students, so I would be in favor of adding that language.
Well, only taxpayers, but there was no open enrollment back.
Yeah.
Sure.
So then the other purpose I think Aaron touched on is not having people who had no interest in the district. But I understand if you have a child in the district, then sure, that's reasonable to me to add that to the public comments.
All right, so I'll make that adjustment then. And so that's the first reading, so then that'll be part of the adjusted one for the second. All right, awesome. All right, so then,
I have a few.
oh, sorry.
Sorry. So, I totally get the employees, right?
Uh-huh.
That if they have a problem with their job, that they need to go through the proper channels. Okay. However, if there are issues that they're a parent, they're part of this district,
It's only work related.
still- okay.
This is only, it only is for work related things.
Right, I mean, I just think of all the stuff that's happened in the last year and a half, and I mean, how do you separate work related to what's happening with our students, or, I mean, I'm just gonna say with the COVID stuff, I understand some of it can definitely be separated out, but just in general, I don't know. Do you know?
This has been a practice that we've utilized, it just articulated. So anything that's of work related, so environment, structure of the workday, things that are in the handbooks, any of those things that, work, like for instance, you might be thinking like masking in employees in school, like where should that be? Well, the avenue could be, through the superintendent, and then they have the opportunity to go that way, not, because that's an employment thing. It's not overall with the community, it's with an employment.
Okay.
Right, there's other channels for them to still be heard, but as an employee, there's.
I realize that.
And I think, John, you in HR, I think there's a lot of privacy type things that go along with that too, and I think there's some situation, if I remember right, where eventually it could get to the board if they appeal decisions and things like that.
Absolutely.
But that's brought to the board as an agenda item, not as a public citizens input.
And there's grievances, there still is a grievance process, been fortunate that hasn't been utilized, but we still have those processes set up within our employment by state statute.
Okay, and my last question is about the fact checking on comments from the public. So who's doing this?
Me, if there's something that's, I'm not gonna, if there's, just like that ESER 3, that just first come to mind, like if something said that, that there isn't the opportunity to give more information about something that doesn't have any impact on, on the comments or the running of the school, but just fact checking to make sure that it's accurate to what happened.
Kind of tripped over the way that was worded. I understand what your intent is. The intent of citizens input is for an opportunity for the board to hear the comments from the community. And because of open meeting laws, we're not allowed to engage in a dialogue of what that is. But occasionally there's a comment or a question sometimes that comes up that could be answered easily in the context of the board meeting. And I think that's what you're trying to address here.
Good.
But I'm not.
And we can throw that, the reality of it is too, is that during And the reason you can't, that we can't discuss something that somebody brings up because it's not in the agenda, and everything has to be posted about what's gonna be commented in the agenda. So that's why that is, that's a legal thing. So, I mean, that's one we can, we can use we can change or take that out. I just know that there's sometimes where I wanna make sure that if something is said, that there's an opportunity to make sure that, the correct information is shared.
So I just have a problem with the whole fact checking
Okay.
thing because in my world, we're talking, censorship versus fact checking and who's to say what's right unless,
Sure.
so
That's fine.
And so your opinion versus
This is just facts, like there's just some clear
I
cut
state
things
facts
that-
too, but nobody thinks that they're true, so.
Okay, not a problem. We can, no controversy on this one. I can take that out, and then what we'll just do is make sure that, I want to make sure that too, when we have comments, that we don't bring up personnel information or individual name information or things or perspectives of what people have about what happened or couldn't have happened. We want to make sure that we stay true to what we need to do in those open
I
comments.
mean, I understand that we're trying to clear up
Sure.
a comment or a situation. I understand that. I just have a
That's okay.
problem with the wording, I guess. That's
No
one
problem.
thing.
I don't have this was just something that I think efficiencies, but once again, and in the comments and things, there's gonna be people who aren't gonna believe what I say either. So I guess, I think when we go into this opportunity, it's just, I can always clear things up on outside too and email and get things back to you.
I think the problem comes in from just using the words fact checking, because that's a controversial thing in our world these days. I think the old policy and from the red manuals allow the president to defer to the superintendent to answer a question. If somebody says, why do we have, or, why do we have to use ESSER funds in order to, whatever, the thing with the math?
Sure.
And the superintendent then can just answer that question.
Sure.
But, I don't think it's anything getting into theory or, stuff like that, but.
And if that's a practice, we can do that. We don't need anything articulated. Okay. So I'll cross that out?
Yep.
Okay.
Anything else, Vicki?
Not on that, I think.
On that one?
All right. So I'll just go through these of the ones that we have here. So health services, so Vicki, this is one that you had brought up. And really, it's, the intent of this whole policy is to make sure that the district doesn't do the wrong thing. So what I did is kind of keep the spirit. I've talked about that. I haven't heard anything back. What do you think about the board pleasure about the yellow? We're talking about health services 5310. And the big thing was invasive exams. Want to make sure that the district would not participate in practice that would cause an exposure of private body parts. But, I mean, when you talk about invasive exams, we have, diabetes, we have EpiPens, we have all these different things that are considered invasive because they do go into the body. But this is meant to make it so that the district doesn't do things or the parents know everything that's going on.
So what I would like to see, and I know that, the nurses and whoever have to give the kids the medications they need or whatever, and sometimes that's an injection. To me, that's a whole different platform up here where the parents are saying, as simple as an ibuprofen. I have to give my permission, or we have to have a medical doctor's permission in order to do that, correct? So to me, that's totally different than what this says.
This is all from state statute.
No,
Every
I
other
know.
district has it, so that's.
I know, but I just don't think anywhere in our language should we have an invasive physical examination. And it's not necessarily even about exposed body parts. It's about the possibility of making an incision or insertion or injection into the body, which is not anything that we should do. There's a part up here where it says, when we're talking about expect to be scheduled for students. Oh, okay. So in the on the bottom, when we start getting into paragraphs, again, the board shall directly notify the parents of students at least annually at the beginning of the school year of the specific or approximate dates during the school year when any non-emergency, cross out invasive physical examination, or, so when, during the school year, when any non-emergency screening is scheduled or expected to be scheduled for students if the, screening is these things. And I just want that whole invasive physical examination out of our language.
Let me do this, Vicki, because if we don't have specific legal language from Neola, they won't back it. So then, this is all, I mean, all these things we don't do, and we use this in order to make sure that we don't do them, because the parent would have to be told. But what I would do, if that's okay, we'll work together, but I'll find out if with the board's pleasure then, if by changing what Vicki, and I also want to talk with Nurse Bridget, this isn't changing any of our practices whatsoever. And we by no means ever want to do invasive things unless we have to, but this just says if we ever would, you'd have to let us know, and this comes from statute. So I just want to make sure that our policies are also backed legally by Neola. That's why we pay them for that. So I'll look into that to see get those things out, and then also Bridget, and then if we could just work independent, like if you and I, because we've been looking at this for quite a while, and I made the suggestion a while back, and I haven't heard anything, so I just.
That's my fault. I thought we just had to discuss it here.
Yeah, that's okay.
So I took a stab at that paragraph based on what your comment was at the last meeting is, and I have a rewrite, and I'll send it to you for your consideration. But basically, taking that language out in the form of the board shall not permit any non-emergency invasive whatever of students without notifying and receiving written permission of parents. Because that covers your injections and your medications today, which is what you're doing. You're not doing it without notification in writing from the parents. And then that takes that whole invasive element out of it, that we're not permitted to do that unless specific language from the parent in writing to cover things such as medications and injections.
Right, and to me, that's, okay, if it has to be part of that, but to me, that's a whole nother, I just keep using the word platform because I don't know what else to use,
But the term that's in yellow, I believe, is a definition right out of the statutes. So
Okay.
if you take the use of invasive physical examination out of the paragraph, then you don't need the definition.
correct.
Let me just, I want to make sure that I check legally if that's something that has to be there, and if the board then decides not, and then that causes that policy not to be backed by legal things, I just want to make sure that you guys have all that information. The language isn't fun. All this information, 100%, by stating some things, and it states that, well, maybe you're doing that, and this is so that you don't do that, kind of the catchy thing. This policy was put into place so districts wouldn't overstep their bounds and do the wrong thing for kids, that parents would be notified. That's all this is. Now, the language and what it says, to the point, it's not fun to hear, it's not fun to look at, and it's not something that boards should really be involved with, or school districts, but this is from legal things that say, schools, you can't do this, and if you do, you better tell parents, and if you know, but you have to tell them before you do it, if you're going to. So that's what this is meant to do, and we've never done that. So, but what I'll do is, Pete, if whatever you had that the language thing, we'll get that in there, and then Vicki, what I want to make sure that it's right, we can talk about this outside, and then I'll get it to attorney so that we have something clean, and that would be acceptable and work.
Right, seeing it's coming from the statute, I would like to hear an attorney's opinion of what it's actually saying or not saying, so we're clear on that.
I will talk with Richard, and then if we have also our attorneys, and I'll first let me get the information so I know what the wording is to see if that's something that we want to go down, but then I'll take and look into this more.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. So controversial issues in the classroom. All right, so we know that when we talk, when people talk and with teachers and they staff, they're talking about controversial things. Schools have always been like that, we're always gonna be like that. What my recommendation is if you look at, the biggest part is if you go down to, it's after the red line, so does not cause substantial disruption of school environment. These things are, the first ones aren't all that big of a difference than what we've had, or just adding things are not real options. The biggest option is that a teacher may not express a personal opinion, or a teacher may express a personal opinion but shall identify it as such, and must not express such an opinion for the purpose of persuading students to his or her point of view, and may only express the personal opinion after the student discussion has concluded. So, then you can see that really states in that teachers should be mindful. So this really reiterates that teachers should not be telling kids what they should think and what they shouldn't think, as far as when we look at controversial issues. So, what my recommendation is that teachers, if they give their personal opinion, they must state that it's their personal opinion, and that it should not have the impact to try to persuade students. Or they could say, like, for instance, when I taught psychology, and I taught in high school, what I would say is, hey, we're gonna have this discussion, and then I will tell you tomorrow what my personal opinion is after we have the discussion. So, so it'd be one of those two things of how you can discuss controversial issues. So that's what I would recommend. I do not recommend that teachers or staff cannot say their personal opinion, because I think that's part of that relationship and growing and different things. So my recommendation is that that if a teacher does state their personal opinion, they state it as such, and that it doesn't, and they work so that it does not impact how students think. And then the second, or they can state it at the end and say it to the personal opinion after discussions are over.
So there's three options, right? And you're looking to choose one of those?
Choose two of them.
Two of them?
So I would say the only one is that, to get rid of that, the staff can't say their opinion, and say that if they do, they have to say that it is their opinion and it's not to persuade students, or they can do it afterwards.
And so, not that there's any, what I'm gonna ask is, there's not really any change as far as who monitors this and what happens if it happens.
It's the teachers and that's, if they do try to persuade stuff, this has been going on since, and the reason this came up
I don't disagree.
is because of what we're seeing right now within our communities about, people's concerns about teachers saying things or how they're saying that. That's where this came from. So that's why
Like
we're
only
doing.
having one news station present in the whole history class,
Right,
that they should have
multiple.
multiple.
Yeah. And I would say the majority, I'm not in every classroom all the time, but they do a very good job of really trying to support both different thought processes. Or three or four.
I think there's some conflict in that language though. And, the third one, and may only express, I think that should say or only express.
Right.
Because right before it, in the existing, you're saying they may express it, and then you're saying, and may only express it. So.
Yep.
And may should be just changed to or, because
Yep.
that gives them that choice to express it and identify it as such, and not persuade kids with it. But if they choose to, they can only express it after. Maybe the only should go out too, but.
Yeah, so a teacher may express a personal opinion, but shall identify it as such, and must not express such an opinion for the purpose of persuading students his or her point of view, or may express a personal opinion after the student's discussion has concluded.
Yep.
Sound good?
Sure.
All right, so I will make those corrections there. All right, and then quorum. So this one right here was, that 3 members must be present at a meeting shall constitute a quorum, period. So the change here is that if you have 3 members, but 2 of them are here and 1 isn't, then there's no work that can be done. Which would also mean you can't get new board members, you can't get other things. So I personally, and also from state statute, looking at that, you know, the way that it's stated here is, you know, this was a unique situation. I hope that what we had was a unique situation. But I would recommend and caution from taking that part off.
I don't think I got a copy of that one with the packet, but.
Well, I think you can,
It's somewhere.
the president can appoint board members. I don't think that's really a problem if we run into it again. But a quorum is a quorum.
Don't.
And if we're a 5-member board.
But a
it should be
quorum,
3.
Well, we're not a 5-member board if we only have 3 members
Right.
at a
And then
particular
that's
point in
when,
time, and a quorum would be 2. In this case, we would have not been able to conduct any board business until like a month and a half or 2 months later till we filled these 2 positions.
well, there were 3 of us.
And then why, you know, I think this relates to what happened at that meeting where you left and allowed, you know, just 2 people, or 2 board members to be here. But Robert's Rules of Order is a quorum of those members present unless you specifically say it has to be a quorum of the total members of the board. But that's what the case was that night. We only had 3 board members at the time, so I see no reason to change the definition of a quorum. And again, like Aaron said, it just stops the business of the board until we go through the process of appointing new members. Or in some cases, that some seats stay empty until the next election, which could be more than a couple months.
So your proposal is to strike the language about the vacancies. The first thing I did is I went out to the statute. The powers of school boards, state statute 120 dictates a lot of what we do, and it dictates a lot of what these policies that come from Neola are. And in the statute, it says, school boards must have a regular meeting, subparagraph 2, a majority of the school board members constitute a quorum at a regular or special board meeting. So that's in the statute. So whether we strike that sentence or not, the state statute says, however many members you have on the board, a quorum is a majority of that. And we cannot overturn the statutes.
And the board present? Or the board period, because we're a 5-member board. So
Right,
a
but-
board.
But not when you
members
have,
Present?
not when you have a board member who is left for whatever reason. Because as soon as they leave, move out of the district, resign or whatever, then your board is less than that. So at that point, you're still governed by the statute, which says your majority is of whatever your board is made up of at that time with a vacancy. So whether we have the language in there about,
But even if there's 4, there's still 3, it would be a quorum.
Then you need
Correct.
3 for a quorum. If there's 3, you need 2 for a quorum.
so whether we have this in the in the policy really doesn't matter because the language is in the state statute. So I went out and looked at 10 districts in the area for what the quorum is. And 7 of the 10 districts that I looked at use board docs. And this language is pretty common in most of them. There were a couple of schools that don't use board docs. Surprisingly, their public policies did not mention one word about quorum that was available. One of them was locked, I couldn't look at. Surprisingly, there are districts with 7 and 9 members. Stockbridge School System has a 9-member board. They specifically said 5 members was a minimum, but they were typically larger boards. But the 5-member board schools that I looked at all had this language, and it was all fairly identical, which I think is supported by the statutes. So I don't see the advantage of taking it out because the statute is still going to say it is the majority of your sitting board at that moment.
Okay.
So the language here, I think, just adds to clarify what the statute says.
All right.
Aaron, could you make a note to send me that. I didn't get that particular page with the highlighted stuff.
It should be with what I had sent you recently too.
So it was, I had two of the,
Okay,
of one of them and none of that one.
you bet.
So,
Oh, okay. That's why I got two of those.
Yep, you bet. Definitely. So, but in essence, what I'm hearing right now is that's a moot thing because we're not gonna consider that change.
I would agree.
Sounds like.
So then, but I'll get you that sheet so you can check it out. All right, and then the only other one that I want to, bring up is a wellness policy. We're still working on it. It's a big, thick one. We just haven't had time to get our wellness group together and stuff, so. Is there any other questions about any of the other ones on here?
And apologize, I should have been able to go out and look at the drafts. Could you briefly talk about what is the waivers of school fees and fitness for homelessness?
Yes, there's new statutes with homeless, the McGinty Veto Act. And it's if somebody's identified as homeless, that then they don't have to pay school fees. And things, so we've always been doing those things anyway, so what this does is just gets us into the legalese of the policies that have been passed, it's something that we already do.
And I think it's fairly unfortunate, but I believe we have a number of people
Not so many homeless, we just have many that have, that might struggle economically, but we don't have that many homeless.
but we do have a couple, I think, in high school.
And Chris Schultz does a good job of doing that, so, yep.
That's the only question I had on the other ones.
Anybody else? All right, so then, as the policies go, the changes that I will make are in the public comment that we will get rid of the fact checking thing. We will add or have a school or have a student open enroll in the district. And then controversial discussions, that'll be this or, so either if they state it, they say that, they state and they don't use it for persuade, or they may say afterwards. And then the quorum one is not gonna be part of this, and other than that, we're good to go. All right, excellent, I'll make those corrections and I'll get you that updated.
So
Excellent.
we'll have to review those in December then again?
Yep, so it'll be this, and then I'll make those corrections based on what you guys said. I'll get all that stuff updated on those drafts, I'll do it on board docs, and then I'll also make copies and include them like I did here, but updated for you.
So with number 2 on this, we do not,
Larger font next time, please.
Well, here's the deal, if you can, the thing is if you put it on your iPad, you can blow it up.
Ah, okay.
That's the key. I will figure something out. So we can get that out. All right.
Interrupt you.
no, that's okay. So number 2, first reading of policy edits, deletions, and addition, you're just doing that, we don't have to.
There's no board action.
Make board action.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, that's because there's policy that says it has to be done twice, the
Right,
first reading and
right.
the second reading.
And
Well, I
we've
just
always
didn't know
wanted-
if we're, okay, so we did the first one, so we're,
Yep, and the reason that is so that so that the public can know what's going on, and these policies are the main job of the board, so that, it goes through and people have the opportunity to hear what's happening. And the same thing that happened here, we go, and I work with Richard Zimmerman, and Sarah, we make some of the corrections and some of the additions. Some really are no-brainers because we just state statutes, and then there's some other ones where the input is needed, more so go from there. And then, I'll continue to get that information. This should be the last really big one that we have for a while, but I really like that we're doing it in 2 readings. In the past, we've kind of condensed it, but I think this gives more time and really lets you look at our policies a little bit more too, and kind of get more in depth, which I think is always a good thing. All right, Samantha, you're on, early graduation.
Yes, so we have another student who is currently meeting criteria to graduate early. She is looking at saving money so that she's able to attend Marine Park Technical College in the fall to enter in the welding program. So we talked about different opportunities for her, but this is what she would like to do. So I believe Mr. Sadek had shared her paperwork with you in order to graduate at semester. And then, as of right now, she has indicated to me that, yes, she would also participate in the spring ceremony, same as the other two students would currently like to.
And then Samantha, do you have any more that you think are gonna be coming in December?
Possibly one, I'm not sure, but I think this is it.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so before us is a recommendation to consider the early graduation of a student. Looking for the board action on that.
Well, first, I don't know that we have a name, which isn't all that important, except
Sure.
that the name should probably be in the motion then.
Yep. And what I'm just doing for I think it's better that I don't send the name out to the whole community and their whole thing, so, but I think if you put that student's name in there, I think that's a good thing. I think you're right, Steve.
Yeah. In the motion, you mean?
Yep.
I have it, do you want it?
Yeah, you can say that the student's name.
Oh, okay, so, I'll entertain a motion from the board that we accept the recommendation for Jordan DeMay for early graduation.
Perfect.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to accept the recommendation for early graduation. Are there any questions? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Geckerman,
Yes.
Goldowski, yes. Jaeger,
Yes.
Chisholm,
Yes.
Hack.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. That brings about the end of the new business. Next on the agenda is consideration for closed session. 2 items before the board is to consider discussion of the superintendent's review and also to discuss compensation staff for the 2021, compensation for the staff for the 2021-2022 school year, both of which permitted under closed session by state statute 19.85, parenthesis 1, subparenthesis C. So with those 2 considerations, I would entertain a motion from the board that we move to closed session.
So moved.
Have a great Thanksgiving, guys.
Bye.
All right, hey, administrators, thank you, guys. Have a good one.
I have a motion and a second to move to closed session.
Yes.
Sorry.
That's fine. It's not a
Goldowski,
not a
yes.
debatable
Hey,
item.
Mike.
Jaeger.
Yes.
You know that electronic
Geckerman,
music
yes.
that he sent over to us? Did you send that to the board?
Definitely that, I forgot I didn't do that. I'll make
We
sure.
are in
was
closed
fun.
session.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
So
Yep. See you, Shannon. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thanks, Aaron.
See you, Mike.
while he pulls the plug on things.
What do you
And then
need, Sam?
everyone, happy Thanksgiving.
30
All right, thanks,
seconds.
Sam.
Thanksgiving.
Happy
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam.
John, I don't know if we've crossed paths with you.
You know,
I'm guessing you have kids in the district.
Yes, 3.
See the names, I've done.
Yeah, nice to meet you too, and I'll probably pick you up on some of that time,
Oh.
just to get a,
Yeah.
I'm a data guy too, so.
Yeah,
I'd like to understand what I'm looking at. so.
Yeah, and there's so much there, so yeah, there's so much we go over here, but
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
All right.
Thank you for.
I'll get you- I'm pretty-
Yeah, cool. How's it been first?
I have to
month or
condense
so
all
being
Uh,
around?
it's good listening,
I have to condense
you know what I mean,
all.
listening at first and then, you know, really spending some time this weekend kind of.
Yeah, I think what I figured.
They'll show up different.
At least in 2 of 1.
We'll enjoy it.
Missed that one.
I've had, I could tell you here, I mean, my dad was a teacher in North Carolina for
We haven't
30
scared you
years.
away yet, have we?
And then
No.
I teach Adams Chapel for
Taking it all.
no cost.
Yeah.
All right.
That's
So.
Oriole TV is now going on.
Yeah.
Where are you working for?
I work with Kroger, so pick and save around these here. Yeah, I've been with them for
really pretty much
almost
takes
12 years.